Hi, this is David from OT Focus, and today I'm going to talk to you about occupational therapy salary. Before I went to OT school, I just kind of felt like no one was talking about occupational therapy salary. So that's kind of why I'm making this video today, to try to be as transparent as possible. For some reason, a lot of occupational therapists don't want to share their salary. I know you can look up like average OT salary on BLS.gov, but I feel like that doesn't give you a real world picture of what occupational therapy salary is. So today, hopefully I can give you just kind of a clear picture of what OT salary is, what you can expect to make as a new grad OT, what OT salary pays depending on the setting you work in and the state. Depending on where you live, the highest paying states to live in are going to probably be on the West Coast. There are some exceptions, if you're on the Northeast side. But in general, you're going to be making more in states like California, Texas, and Nevada, specifically Las Vegas. So right after OT school, I worked as a new grad in Las Vegas, and in general, I feel like it's the highest paying state to work in. So if you're really interested in paying your student loans off as quick as possible, I would say move to Las Vegas. That's the place to make it happen in any medical profession. That's being a doctor, a physical therapist, occupational therapist, a nurse. You're going to make the most money in Las Vegas. Now, the reason that Las Vegas pays more than any other state is because of the Medicare reimbursement. So for some reason in Las Vegas, Medicare just reimburses at a higher rate. Where I currently live, Medicare actually reimburses at a much lower rate in California because I'm in like a less urban area. So if you live on the West Coast, you're gonna make more money in general, but that's not completely true because there's some states where you're not gonna make that much money at all. For example, Utah is gonna be paying less. Idaho, Montana is gonna pay less. The Dakotas, North Dakota, South Dakota, you're gonna be making a lot less money in those states, but it's mainly Las Vegas. Oregon's not bad, Washington's not bad, Arizona's going to be a little bit higher, California is a little bit higher, and then Texas is going to be pretty equivalent to California. So if you're working on the West Coast, you're going to make a little bit more money. Now, if you live on the East Coast, there are some states that are going to pay higher, and that's generally going to be Northeast, so like Connecticut or New York. Tennessee's not too bad, but when you go to those areas where there's a lot more OT schools, there's going to be a lot more new grad OTs, so you got a lot more competition, and they're going to drop the pay down. So that's going to be places like Florida, where they have tons of colleges. Georgia is probably not going to pay as well in general, unless you live in like remote Georgia. North Carolina is probably going to pay a little bit less. So I would say if you're in the East Coast and you want to make more money, try to find a place that's less populated. As an OT, it really depends on what setting you work in too. You're not going to just be making a lot of money in pediatrics because pediatrics is the lowest paying setting. So if you're thinking about pediatrics, there are settings that pay higher, but in general, pediatrics is going to be quite a bit lower. But I would look at outpatient pediatric, might pay a little bit higher, or home health pediatric. If you start your own business, you can definitely make more money in pediatrics, but in general, pediatrics is going to be much lower paying. The highest setting for occupational therapists is going to be hospitals. Now, there are some hospitals that aren't going to pay as much, and those are going to be in the places where there's just a whole lot of OTs, where they can choose whoever they want to work there. So you're going to want to choose a hospital that is pretty needy for OTs in general, and that's how you're going to get your higher salary. And you're also going to have to negotiate because hospitals have the highest budget, right? So if they really need you, they'll be desperate, and they're going to be willing to pay more than hire a traveler or outside consultant. So hospitals have the deepest pockets, so they're going to pay the most. And as a new grad, I would try to get into a hospital because they're also going to have the best benefits. If you work per diem, you're going to make even more money at a hospital if you can live without those benefits. Another really good setting to work in is going to be your acute care rehabs. Those pay pretty well. So if you have the chance, it's not a bad place to start, and you also get really good experience starting out in acute care. So rehabs in general are going to just pay a little bit more. Skilled nursing facilities can also pay well, But right now, there's been a lot of changes with Medicare. They've actually been targeted so Medicare can start paying them less. So right now, I would say skilled nursing facility isn't the best place to start, but if you're desperate for a job, it's easy to get a job at a skilled nursing facility. And in general, they pay about the same as acute care rehab, and you're gonna get some decent benefits. So it's really not a bad job. It's just not the best place to work, especially starting out, in my opinion. Home health, I think, is a really good job to start in too, but in home health, you really have to factor in a lot of different things that you're going to be doing. So you're going to be traveling a lot, so you have to factor that time in, and you got to factor in whether or not the company is going to be paying you for travel or for your miles, which they probably should. In general, I would not want to start a home health job if I was making less than $65. I'll say $70 per visit. Me personally, I won't accept a home health job if it's paying less than $90 because to me it's just not worth it because of all the travel time that you have to do and all the time you have to do documenting. So, and then also all the time you have to spend with a patient. So sometimes you can be traveling, working with a patient and spending documentation time, and that time can add up to it could add up to like a 2 or 3 hours in some cases. Home health also has a really nice side to it. And that's the side that you have just really good patients that you work with. Your patients are going to love you. But there is a downside, just finding patients that are missing appointments, or they schedule time with you and then they don't show up. The last setting I want to talk to you about is travel therapists. So travel therapists are gonna, in general, they're gonna be paying a lot more, but it's really not that much more, and I'm just going to tell you that in a minute. So as a travel therapist, they try to incentivize you by saying, if you work as a traveler, like, we're going to pay for your travel expenses, and we're going to pay for you can get a housing stipend and you can get food stipend, and like, it sounds like a whole lot of money, but if you follow the tax rules, you really don't end up making that much money, because as a traveler, the government gives you stipends if you already have a house, if you already pay rent somewhere else. So if you're a travel therapist and you don't pay rent somewhere else, or you don't have a house somewhere else, you're not going to get that stipend unless you lie about it on your taxes. So as a traveler, I think you got to look at what they're going to be paying you weekly or monthly to get a good idea of if it's worth it to you. The other pro of being a traveler is they're gonna pay for you to travel from one location to another. But you also have to look at it as, am I willing to just live out of a couple suitcases and not take like my bed and my couch? Because ideally, as a traveler, you probably want to live in a furnished apartment or house. So travel therapy can pay really well, but it just really depends case by case. So new grad OTs in general are going to make about, the average is $59,000 per year, but really you can make a whole lot more than that. So I would estimate as a new grad, you should be able to easily find a job making $70,000 a year. And I would try to stick with that unless you're doing pediatric OT or something that's paying a little less. $70,000 a year is going to be a good starting point. Again, if you work in Las Vegas, you can make a ton of money if you work per diem and you have multiple jobs. So if you work at like multiple hospitals, or you're working at multiple rehab settings and a hospital, if you work at 3 different locations, you're per diem, you're gonna make more money just because per diem pays so much higher. In some cases, it can pay $15 or $20 an hour higher than what you would be making as a full-time or part-time employee. Now, the problem with per diem is you're not going to be getting those benefits. You're not going to get health insurance. You're not going to get 401k. You're not going to get retirement savings. But in my opinion, as a new grad, I started in per diem just because it pays so much more. So what I did is I just started working at a facility for 6 months so I could get grounded and feel comfortable working as a new OT. And then I jumped into per diem as fast as I could. So in my opinion, that's the way to start out. So that's OT salary in a nutshell. If you have any more questions, you can visit my blog post on this that goes into more detail at otfocus.com. And if you like this video, hit a like, please subscribe, and comment below. Thanks.